Okay, so now we know what kind of environments sedimentary rocks form in. We know the different types of sedimentary rocks. So now let's talk about different kinds of features that can be created by sedimentary rocks. Well, the first one is going to be horizontal beds. So that in an ocean, when stuff is falling to the bottom, it tends to make layers. And the layers tend to be horizontal. So if you find sedimentary rocks and they're in horizontal layers, that means it was a very calm environment. So there wasn't a lot of wave action that would be disrupting this horizontal bedding. Okay, another kind of sedimentary feature is going to be cross beds. And so cross beds are a result of transport by wind, or it could be transport by water, as in a river. So in the picture there that's on the left, you see some, those could be either sand dunes or they could be water dunes. So let's say that they're sand dunes. So you have sand that's being transported and it goes up the slope and then it falls off the edge of the sand dune, and then you have another, later you have more sand that is going to go and do this. But now let's say that for some reason the wind changes direction. So then what you could end up with is sand that's coming from this direction and doing like this. And so what you're going to end up with is these beds that are going to cross each other like that. So that's going to be called cross beds. And so if you do find beds that are crossing each other, then that's telling you that the direction that the wind was blowing from or the water was coming from has changed in the geological past. Okay, another one is going to be called graded beds. So what you're looking for is you're going to find a layer of very fine sediment with a layer of coarser sediment on top of it, with a layer of even coarser sediment on top of it. And then it starts over again. So then you'd have a layer of fine sediment, a layer of coarser sediment, and then a layer of really coarse sediment. And then on top of it would be another layer. So what would cause something like this? So this is going to be caused by the rapid dropping of a load. So this is a picture of an underwater valley where you've got turbidity currents. You're going to have debris that's coming from the continent. It gets washed into the ocean and it piles up on the edge of the continent. But then you have a landslide, or actually an ocean slide, where all of this material tumbles down to the bottom of the ocean floor. So the first stuff to settle onto the ocean floor is going to be the finest material. Okay, then on top of that is going to be more coarse material, and then on top of that is going to be the coarsest material. And then everything's okay for maybe a few years or a few thousand years, and sediment begins to pile up on that slope again until it no longer can hold it, and then it tumbles back down that valley, and then it covers up that material that was already down there, so that you can end up with layer after layer after layer of this sorted material. Okay, ripple marks. So ripple marks, just like the cross beds, can either be made by wind or they can be made by water. So in the picture that you see on the right hand side, those would be water ripple marks. And you can tell the general direction that the current was going in, or the wind was blowing in, because they're always going to be perpendicular to the ripple marks. Now you can go further, because not only can you tell whether it was going this way or whether it was going this way, You can even decide which way it is by, again, looking at the steepness of the ripple beds. So if the ripple beds are symmetrical, like this, then that means that the water was sloshing, that the water would go this way and then the water would go that way, and it makes uniform ripple marks. On the other hand, if you've got ripple marks that are asymmetric, okay, so hopefully you can see that one side over here is steeper than this side over here. Okay, you can tell by the steepness of it which way the water was going. So the water must have been flowing in this direction in order to make those, the same way that the wind, if it was blowing this way, would make these grains do that. So you can see that just by looking at the ripple marks. Okay, then you've got mud cracks. So mud cracks are going to indicate that this particular environment sometimes would get wet and then it would dry out. And then it would get wet again and then it would dry out. And then that's what's going to make mud cracks. Okay, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to summarize everything we've been talking about today.